They said nobody knows who put it here. Some say it was a giant. Some say it's an ancient building. I guess we'll never know. Alright, enough yapping. Today we're building a giant sword in Bloxburg, and I have to tell you, I didn't even know I was gonna build this before I built this. You know what I mean? Sometimes you make something and you want to keep it simple, but you just end up going with the flow, because that's exactly what happened here. I decided I want to make something simple because I wanted to test my landscaping, but I kind of failed with that, I guess. And funny thing is, I actually always have a reference picture for what I want to build, but most of the time I just look at it and I kind of fade away from it because my own inspiration just takes over. Like, this was just supposed to be an island and I put a sword on it. I've always thought it's funny how building starts, because you really just have a cool idea in your head and then you just start placing blocks, delete it, place another block, delete that one too, and half of the building is just you configuring yourself. It doesn't look terrible. And especially with custom shapes, it takes so much patience because you're just placing stuff and hoping it turns out good. I'm saying that knowing it will turn out good, but still. I actually got the idea of this giant sword because I wanted to make something that looked like it had a story behind it. Like, who left it here? Was this some giant battlefield? Is this thing cursed? You know, I like builds that make you ask questions instead of just looking nice, you know, because a lot of people just build basic stuff, and sometimes I like building basic stuff too, but not the like modern houses or the Kim Kardashian type of houses. I just want to make something that's like, for one, original, fun to look at. It's like extraordinary. It's like not something you see every day in Bloxburg, you know? And I honestly think details are the most important part of any build. People notice the big things first, obviously, but the small little custom details are what make a build believable, unbelievable, both. The rocks, the trees, the cracks, the uneven ground. If everything is perfectly clean, it doesn't feel that real, you know? I notice a lot of times when I'm building, I change my mind. I'll like finish something I've just built and I'll just stare at it for like 10 seconds and then decide I hate it, and I'll just completely rebuild the entire section. Luckily for this build, it didn't happen that much, but I don't know if anyone else does that, but it's just basically almost every project. I also spend way too much time staring at my build from different angles. Sometimes I just sit in cinematic mode and just look at my build. Sometimes it'll look amazing from one side and then I just rotate the camera and I suddenly think, what the hell have I just made? This is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I think some of the hardest parts about building is not comparing yourself to other people, because you'll see a lot of creators making these insane castles in entire cities. Meanwhile, you're still trying to figure out how to make one cliff look natural. And that's the thing about social media. Everything is like sped up and made to look perfectly done in one go. But everyone's got to start somewhere. Nobody uploads their first terrible build, you know? Well, I did on my old YouTube in like 2016, but we don't talk about that. Like, if you ever wanted to get better at building, honestly, my biggest tip is just to build random things. Don't always build houses, build statues, ruins, caves, waterfalls, trees. Every random object project teaches you something new. And don't stick to like one type of build, you know? Combine them. Make a Tuscan house, make a cabin, make a Spanish house, make a French house, make a medieval house. Just make anything. For me, I actually enjoy making fantasy builds a lot, but sometimes I do enjoy making a different type of house. So it isn't really one type of build I enjoy the most. They don't have to make perfect sense. You can exaggerate things, make something look cool, detailed, and people will believe it. But I definitely still have a lot to improve on as a builder. When I look back at older builds I made it like a year ago or even further ago, most of the time I think, what was I even doing? But you know, I guess that's just a good thing because it means you've improved, and maybe in a couple of years I'll look back on what I've built now and think, damn, what was I doing? So like, yeah, I don't really think you ever get to a point where you're like fully satisfied with what you build. Obviously you can be satisfied, but in my opinion there's always room for improvement, and that counts for everybody. One thing I also really like to do is reading people's suggestions. Sometimes I post on TikTok and I see some like tips and tricks. I do really take them to heart and I actually use them in my builds because, like I said, I can improve too. I honestly don't remember the first thing I built in Bloxburg, but it was probably terrible and I thought it looked super good back then. It was probably just a starter house with the garage added to the side with some like crazy elephant wallpaper or something. Now I'd probably bulldoze it after looking at it for 5 seconds. I think everyone has those old builds they wish they just could forget, but at the same time it's cool seeing how much you've improved over time. If you never make bad builds, you'll never end up making good ones. You might be able to tell, but I'm kind of sick right now. Like, my nose is super runny, I'm having a headache, and here I'm sitting editing this video, so y'all better thank me. Just kidding guys, just kidding. People ask me like where I get my ideas from and my inspiration, and honestly it's kind of everywhere. Sometimes it's Pinterest, sometimes it's a movie, and sometimes it's another game. Sometimes I literally see a really cool tree and I think I want to build an entire map around that. Not that I've done it before, but I've thought it. I think a common mistake a lot of new builders make is trying to make make everything perfect immediately and trying really hard stuff from the get-go. Like, you spent 20 minutes trying to make one custom wall perfect, like, it's not gonna work when the rest of the build just doesn't exist. I always suggest just starting custom stuff small with the capabilities you have, watching videos, and you can improve from there on out, you know, because I think it's better to block everything out first, get the shape done, then go back and make it look nice. Otherwise, you just end up wasting 10 minutes of your life. Bloxburg building is actually kind of funny. Half the things you see in detailed builds aren't even being used for what they were made for. Like, why are we using a doorbell as a door handle? Or like the pepper grinder. Sometimes people use those for cabinet knobs. I feel like the hardest part of this build was probably making the sword actually feel heavy. I don't know if you know what I mean. If I just placed it straight into the ground, it'd kind of look boring. So I wanted to like create some terrain around it, make it look like it slammed into the island, like a giant did it or something. So it would look like it had actual weight. That's why I added like some rocks around it, uneven ground, and tried to blend everything together. But like, if this place had a lore, imagine if this place like actually existed. Who would have owned the sword? Did someone defeat them, or did they leave it here on purpose? Maybe nobody can pull it out anymore. Do giants still exist? Maybe people have been trying for 100 years. I think if you add a story to a build, it'll become like way more alive. And I don't know, I just like fantasizing about stuff I do. Wait, that sounds wrong. I've been thinking about doing some building challenges as well. Like, someone on TikTok challenged me to build without using basic shapes, and I don't want to sound funny or anything, but I don't know if I can do that. Or like using a certain amount of money, or like a small percent of plot, you know, or building something in an hour. I feel like challenges make building way more interesting because you have to work around restrictions instead of just doing whatever you want. I really think like one of the biggest differences between an okay builder and a really good builder is like the tiny details. When you're making like a tree, like slightly tilt it, or like what I just did before, just add some like kind of wave texture to the water. Maybe add some patches of grass, breaking up flat terrain. Like, nobody looks at those individually, but together they make the whole thing feel like way more realistic and believable, if you get what I mean. Crazy how much little details can add to a build. If Bloxburg like gave everyone unlimited plot data, I think people would just build absolutely insane stuff, because we're kind of limited. Maybe we would see entire fantasy kingdoms, massive castles, huge cities, working amusement parks. Honestly, the community already has like crazy builds, but imagine what people would do if they were never had to worry about running out of data, you know? My favorite part about this is probably when the build starts coming together. At the beginning, it always looks like a little messy. Then you add one thing, then another, then suddenly you zoom out and you're like, wait a second, this is actually starting to look pretty good. That's probably the most satisfying part about building for me. The most annoying thing has to be moving something by literally one stud. Like, you know, when you're in Transform Plus and you're just trying to move something so it perfectly aligns with another thing, and it's like telling you can't, so you have to move it like all the way out and then all the way back in. That's so annoying. So I just keep adjusting it over and over until it actually just accepts it. I'm convinced every builder literally does that. Honestly, I don't think the biggest builds are always the most memorable. Well, in this case, the sword is big, but sometimes it's the one to have a cool idea, you know? You can build like a giant mansion, but if there's no personality to it, people will forget, bro. Meanwhile, someone builds something completely random, like a sword sticking out of an island, and people remember it because it's different. I think having an interesting concept matters just as much as building skill. I do really hope Bloxburg keeps adding more decoration pieces, especially fantasy stuff. One thing I do really like about the Bloxburg community is seeing how different everyone's style is. Like, you can give 10 builders the exact same concept and you'll get 10 completely different builds. Some people go realistic, some people go fantasy, and some people go focus on interiors. I think that's what like keeps the game interesting. But at the end of the day, I build because I enjoy it. Obviously, it's nice when people like the final result, but honestly, I think building itself is just like a hobby of mine. I really like watching an idea slowly like turn into something real and make it my own thing and give it my own personality. So I genuinely hope you enjoyed hanging out while I worked on this one. And if you got any ideas for the future, or even a challenge you want me to try, drop it in the comments. I read them and a lot of ideas come from them. So thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe